Hi, hello, welcome back to SIParator Firewall AWS Deployments Online Training. This session is session number 3. We're going to talk about the launching SIParator instance. This is a session dedicated on how do the first deployment from scratch of a SIParator appliance in AWS. So let's move on. As of today, SIParator for AWS is not yet an available product through the AWS Marketplace. Um, is being pre-released in a controlled way right now, and there is a process that needs to be followed in order to get the AMI that is going to be used for installing your first separator. It will be soon available via the marketplace for self-provisioning. So in order to launch it today, you need to follow the some steps. First of all, you need to send an email to sales@ek.com including the following information. First of all, contact information, which is your company name, address, including city and country, your contact information, phone number, contact person for this deployment, email, phone number, contact position. Uh, Purpose of the deployment is an evaluation, is a potential production deployment, whatever you think is relevant to better for us to understand what you're pretending to do, and that is going to help us to help you better, to support you better. So then we need the scope in terms of resources that you are going to need licensed. Number of simultaneous calls, number of extensions, uh, number of SIP trunks, and number of simultaneous calls per trunk. IPPBX to be used, including the brand, vendor, version, model, and any other relevant information that you may think. Um, if you have already an AWS account, provide your account ID for Engage to provide you the AMI via community private share. Also, it is not, okay, it's there. In case you don't have an AWS account, you have to create one. There is no other way for us to share the AMI with you. So there is a link there that you can click, and it's going to take you to the AWS page where you can do the creation of your new account, and then provide the information of the account ID. We also need the AWS region where we like the AMI to be shared with. Um, some additional data that is not mandatory, but if it's going to help to better understand what you are trying to do is a brief explanation of the deployment. If you have any diagrams or layouts showing targeted scenario and requirements. Um, if this is a trial, please explain what is the scope, what is the result, if everything goes okay to our salespeople, and we're going to consider providing trial licenses. If it is not, if you have already decided to uh, proceed with a production installation or commercial installation, we're going to send you a quote of the licensing. Once you have a confirmation from Ingate, you're going to get a response from the email that you sent requesting the AMI share. Once you get the AMI share response, um, you're going to be able to go to your launch console and find the AMI and do the provisioning. Um, if you have any variation or special requirements on the maybe the layout or the some weird call routing needs, etc., you can always send emails with your questions and concerns to support@engage.com, and we will be happy to respond back to you and give you our recommendations. Also, we can help on help you on setting up non-standard deployments. Okay. Once you get all the information you need in order to provision the instance, um, you need to log in your AWS account and open the EC2 service dashboard. When you do so, it's like when you log in, let me show you here. When you log in your console, this is the typical landing page once you log in your AWS console, and you have AWS services here. Those are the most common services that you has been using lately, but also you can click here on services and select which service are you uh, planning to go. But in any case, the service that uh, you need to go is the EC2 because we are going to provision an instance. Okay. Uh, Let me go back to the slide. Okay. So uh, you're going to see a button that says launch instance. Okay. Make sure you have selected the region where you want to deploy this instance, and then just click launch. In other words, okay, I'm actually here. I can select which region I want to do the deployment. Okay, I'm going to stay on Northern Virginia, and I'm going to click launch instance. Okay, so when you are in the launch instance, uh, you have here different options on the left side of the screen, and there is one called Community AMIs. Let me go back to the my AMIs. Okay, here, there is one tag called My AMIs, and in that tag you can just click on the one that says Share with me. This is going to access all the instances that has been shared with your account. Okay, and then I can just search here. I'm going to say Engage, for example, and I have here the AMI. I have two of them, as a matter of fact. Okay, so you select the one that corresponds to the Engage SIParator that was shared with you. Okay, let me go back to the slide. Okay, you use Engage. Are going to select the one that was shared with you. Okay, make sure that you target the share with me, and once you press select, the next step is gonna take you to the page where you have to decide, okay, which type of machine you want to create. Okay, here you're going to select the type of machine depending on the capacity that you need. Okay? In our case, uh, because this is a lab environment, and I'm not going to lab environment with a T2 micro for lab is a very low cost. In some cases, it's free um, instance, and you can make test calls up to maybe about 15 to 20 simultaneous calls without any problem. So here you select that. Let me show you live how it works. Okay, I'm going to select this one here. Now you have all the different type of machines that you can select, right? There's a bunch of them. Okay, so we select this one here. You can select any one you want. You can select this, etc. Okay, once you selected the one you want, you can go here. Okay, you can go here and go to the next instance details. Okay. Okay, this section, let me go back to the slide. Next. Next section is going to be to configure the instance details. And this is the section where you're going to be able to assign the right VPC where you want this instance to be deployed, and also the subnets where the instance is going to be um, located. Also, you're going to be able to define the type of tenancy, which is this going to be installing a shared hardware platform, or it's going to be dedicated hardware, etc. Share is the most common deployment and is the cheapest, right? There is cost associated if you want to have dedicated hardware. Also, by default, you're going to see that you have the option to assign the IP address on the corresponding subnet for the Ethernet 0 port, which is the only interface that is physically attached to the instance and you cannot detach. That is going to have the MAC address that is unique for that instance. You can also attach on this setup time at this setup time an additional Ethernet interface. You're going to have a button that says add another interface, and we're going to do that because we're going to have two interfaces. Remember that we have one facing the private network and the other one facing the public network. So Ethernet 0 is going to be the one facing the public network. Okay. So once you have this completed, you just need to move to the next step, which is the storage. Let me show you this live. Okay, here you select which VPC. I have two VPCs in my lab. I'm going to use the voice service cloud here, or I can use the Ingate AWS lab. I'm going to use this one. Then you have several subnets. So you have to decide which subnet this instance is going to be installed. And this is the subnet that is going to be used to connect the first uh, physical interface, the network interface. Okay, so let's say that we want to put this on the subnet that I called public zone A. Okay, and you can see this public zone A is in the US East 1A, but you can see that there are others like this one private here, zone A, and it says US East 1A, but there is another private zone B that says US East 1B, 1B, and this one 1A. Those are in two different zones. Okay, that means that they are in different um, data centers, different availability zones. There are different data centers. The way the availability zones are identified is by this coding 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Well, A, B, C, D, because the US East 1 is the name of the zone, of the region. Okay? So let's say, for example, that we allocate this one as a public in the zone A. I can select here to auto assign a public IP address, but I'm going to leave it disabled because I don't want public IP addresses dynamically changing when I stop start the instance. So I'm going to use later on something called Elastic's IP to assign a static public IP address. So it's going to be disabled. Uh, then here, as you can see, I have only one internet interface, one network interface. Okay, and this network interface, okay, I cannot change anything because it is already allocated to the subnet that has been selected here. So if I don't assign any IP address here, the IP address will be automatically assigned. But I can assign the IP address. Of course, it has to be in the, let's say, 124, for example. Okay, just as an example. And of course, has to be part of the subnet that we selected before. If I put this interface in a different subnet, I'm going to get an error message saying it's not on the right subnet. So I'm going to put the right subnet. But then I can, let me see if I, okay, I made a mistake here. Oh, this is because the subnet, this subnet is not in that. Okay, let me use this one. Voice public use. Okay, that's one. Okay. Yeah, I was using the wrong subnet. Okay. And then for the second interface, as you can see here, you have the flexibility to selecting which one of the other subnets this interface is going to be connected. And this is very interesting because you have an instance that is has one leg landed in one subnet and the other leg is landed on the other subnet. So that's why he's going to act as a as a router for all the voice traffic going between the private side and the public side. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how it works. Let me go back to the slide and let's move on. Okay, the next step is to assign the storage configuration, right? So in the storage configuration, there is a couple of considerations. Here, the engage separator needs to have a specific size predefined, and the specific size is going to be 1 gigabyte. Okay. Um, if you use the default, which is usually I think 20, it won't work. So you have to select 1 gigabyte on the size. Um, you can select the type of volume that better fits your need. The typical use is general purpose SSD, and then you're gonna just move to the next step, which is adding the tags. Let me show you here. If I move to the next step, okay, here you have the different types of devices for the volume. Here's the size. It's going to be 1 gig. You can enable or disable this button here, delete on termination. If it is enabled, if by any reason you decide to terminate the instance because you don't need it anymore, it will delete everything, including the volume. But if you don't select here, the machine will be deleted, but you're gonna still have a hard drive accessible that you can attach to another machine. Okay, so then we move to the next tag. And on the next tag, you are going to uh, be able to create tags. Tags are used for administration purposes. You can filter all your uh, instances based on tags. You can use um, scripting procedures that refers to tags, etc. So we're going to create a tag name called name. The key is going to be name, and we're going to assign a name for that tag. The tag can be listed as part of the dashboard. I'll show you. Okay, if I go to the next step, there is no tags here. I can add the tag. I can call it name, and I can put here SIParator. Let's call it this one. Okay. Okay. The next step is going to be setting up the security group. Uh, Security group is going to be associated to the instance, and this is where you define kind of the basic firewall rules on which ports are exposed to whom. In our case, We want to make it this simpler, but this can be more sophisticated in any real life installation. We want to allow all traffic coming from anywhere, and we are creating a new security group name called Engage SIParator, security group for engage facing the internet. So uh, the reason I'm using this allowing everything is because the separator has its own firewall. We are going to use uh, the in-gate firewall to control what traffic is allowed and what is not allowed. So that's why we are just allowing everything coming from the internet or from anywhere landing in this instance. So let me show it live here. Where is it? Let me show it live. Okay, so this is the configure the security group. Here you can select an existing security group if you already have one created that you are using as a default one for any instance, or you can create your new one. So you can change here and say, for example, as I did in the presentation, all traffic will be allowed anywhere from anywhere. Okay, you can assign a description here if you want also. Okay, so uh, next one, once you have assigned the security group, um, we are about to enter into the very last or almost the very last step, which is review all the instance and launch. You can review all the configuration you have been building through the steps, and you can enter in any of the sections and modify whatever you want to modify. Um, if there is nothing to modify here and you are okay with all the configuration, you just press the launch button and you're gonna go to a very short additional step before really launching the instance. So um, in this case, against separator firewall, you will proceed without a key pair. In our case, this is basically where you're going to define uh, how the credentials are going to be used in order to access this instance. For example, for access to the console, if it is a Linux machine, how to answer the CLI, to access the CLI. Okay, so you can create uh, SSL security keys, or you can not, just proceed without any security key keeper at all. In our case, we're gonna do so, and there is a default administration user and password predefined uh, for for your instance. I'm going to explain that in another session. So once you do that, you just press launch the instance, and then you're going to be able to see the instance in the dashboard, in the EC2 dashboard. Okay, here's the instance that we just created. Okay, and you're gonna see the status starting to um, turn on, and then at some point it's gonna say running. Okay, so if you have any questions, don't forget that you can send them to trainingquestions.ingate.com at ingate.com, and we will be happy to respond them quickly. And I hope to see you in the next session. Thank you. Goodbye.